What's up guys, my name is Konner and welcome to the Songwriter Sanctuary. Today we're going to be talking about arguably the best Queen to ever come out of the British Isles. The rock band featuring Freddie Mercury, Brian May, John Deacon, and Roger Taylor. Don't hate me Brits, it's a bad joke, I love you guys. Queen was known for their bombastic theatrical style and their willingness to push boundaries and step outside of the rock and roll lane, even though most would classify them as a rock and roll band. As a result of this, Queen released song after song after song that defied conventional song length, structure, and style. The song we're going to be talking about today definitely fits that description. In fact, at a whopping 8 minutes and 21 seconds, it's the longest Queen song in their entire catalog by almost 2 entire minutes. And it's got a compelling and powerful story, and super creative and interesting musicianship to match. And no, it's not the song you're thinking of. Before we get started, if you like what you see in this video, or if you have an interest in songwriting, please actually like this video and subscribe to this channel. Your support goes a long way in helping the channel grow. Without further ado, let's talk about it. So the song we'll be discussing today is called The Prophet Song, released in 1975 on their hit album A Night at the Opera. If you saw my last video on a Queen song and you scroll down into the comments, you may have realized that people really like this song. The Prophet Song was written and composed by one of my favorite musical geniuses of the 20th century, the rock and roll astrophysicist himself, Brian May. The recording features all 4 members of the band and was produced by Roy Thomas Baker, who was the lead producer on most of Queen's work throughout the 70s. The song was originally titled People of the Earth, for reasons that'll become obvious very shortly, and its inception can be linked to a dream Brian May had while he was recovering from an illness about a great flood that came as a punishment for people's disconnection from their humanity.
The words really came from a dream that I had, and it really was a dream. I woke up with all this strange stuff going on in my head about a prophet who said various things, and it was very vivid in my head.
The song is incredibly complicated and meandering and has many different parts, and it was very difficult for the band to pull it together. And ironically, after the dream that Brian May had that led to the creation of the song, well,
he was woken up by Kenny Everett on the radio, who'd stolen the tape that we'd cobbled together and was playing it on the radio, the unfinished version that Brian was still working on. He woke up and he's like, is this a nightmare, you know?
So lyrically, the song starts with the warning of destruction to come, directed at people of the earth, hence the original name of the song. It's not entirely clear who the narrator is here. It's not the prophet himself, because the prophet is referenced by the narrator. The narrator seems to be some sort of acolyte or follower of the prophet, pleading with humanity to listen to the prophet's words. And the story of this prophet is pretty straightforward. The prophet arrives predicting a societal collapse due to the sins and transgressions of its constituents. But he's preaching that message to a world that refuses to hear it. The story is speckled with demonic and occult imagery to give a visceral face to the doom, death, and destruction that's to come. With lines like, "He told of death as a bone-white haze," and "Deceive you not, the fires of hell will take you." Deceive you not, the fires of hell will take you. Also woven into the lyrics are allusions to the biblical tale of Noah's Ark, which is a great reference for this type of fall from grace story. You can see this in lyrics such as, "Beware the storm that gathers here, listen to the wise man." Beware the storm that gathers here, listen to the wise man. "Fly and find the new green bough, return like the white dove." Fly and find the new green bough, return like the white dove. And the grammatically bizarre line, "And 2 by 2 my human zoo will be running for to come out of the rain." And 2 by 2 my human zoo. Towards the end of the song, we have this strange juxtaposition where the lyrics seem to get more hopeful, but the prophet, who was initially referred to as a wise man, is now being referred to as a madman. This becomes painfully clear at the very end of the song, where the hopeful line, "Love is still the answer, take my hand," immediately gives way to, "The vision fades, a voice I hear, listen to the madman." It's a story as old as the human condition. It's the idea that if we allow ourselves to disconnect from love and from each other and give in to primal and impulsive temptation, we're doomed to collapse and suffer as a result. In the Prophet Song, Brian May's take on this story weaves together vivid imagery and dire pleading in a way that makes the message seem super palpable and desperate. So what's going on in the song musically? Well, the short answer is a lot. This song doesn't really follow a pop song form, or really any sort of conventional song structure, but I'm gonna do my best to try to extract some order out of the chaos that is this song's different components. The most important thing to understand about how this song operates is that it's built primarily around one central idea, which we will call the chorus idea, even though that seems a little oversimplistic. This central theme is actually the very first thing that Freddie Mercury sings at the beginning of the track. And just for fun, here's Brian May playing that theme on guitar. So, as best as I can tell, the song seems to be broken down into 6 main sections. The first one of these is the instrumental intro. The song starts with just some wind noise. Well, except
in actual fact, it's not wind at all. It's actually an air conditioner with a phaser on the microphone.
Then there's this really lovely, classically inspired acoustic guitar part, and it's speckled with plucks from a koto, which is a Japanese string instrument. This is a complete aside and not important, but we actually have video footage of Brian May playing one of these in 2014 from his official YouTube channel, which I'll link down in the description. So this intro starts in the key of F, and Brian's guitar is tuned to drop D tuning. In this tuning, he can use the low E string, which is now a D, as the root note of the 6th chord.
Prophet's song was built around a different tuning. The bottom string's tuned down to a D, and I became fascinated with what you could do with that. It gives the guitar a lot more depth.
So they play through the main theme very gently and quietly, and I guess it's not entirely fair to call it a completely instrumental intro because Freddie is singing during this section. Then very suddenly, we're hit with this very bizarre sounding chord. It's loud and it's unsettling, and specifically, it's a 4 major 7 sharp 11 chord. There's a mouthful for you. You can hear it in the harmonies on the word man. The notes being sung are B flat, the root, D, the 3rd, E, the sharp 11, and A, the major 7. All that together sounds like this. This chord pivots us into the key of C, and suddenly it's a rock song. So the second section of this song alternates between that chorus idea that we've already talked about and another loosely organized section that kind of repeats, which we'll call the verse section, just to keep things simple. In this section, you have a churning, steady rock beat that drives the story forward. But about halfway through, that gives way to this very sweet moment of tender vocal harmonies. The transition from the verse section to the chorus section of this song includes this epic walk-up that pushes us from the key of C all the way back into the key of F. The bass and the guitar walk up the chromatic scale, which is every single note from A to E, and then there's a quick jump back down to A, which launches us back up to D. The 6th or the minor tonic of the new key. I know, it's a lot and it's hard to keep track of, but it looks like this. The chorus part is just that original idea we've already talked about, but now it's heavier hitting with much more rock instrumentation. And this section goes verse, chorus, and then spits us out into the 3rd section of the song. Now this section is a little bit strange and kind of feels like a transition section intended to get us from that verse and chorus section through to the next main section. We start this section with some vocal harmonies coming from a very odd sounding F sharp minor chord on the word man. This is a sharp 1 minor chord, which is very unconventional, but it works because the top note of that chord, the A, is the same note that we've had at that same place in the section previous times. So now we've got these harmonies that span 4 chords. The 6, the 5, the 4 sus2 over 1, that one's kind of fun, and the 1. And then the next part, so the song's been in 4/4 time this entire time, but we have a single measure of 3/4 time that helps pivot us into the next main idea. This goes into a more open-sounding classic rock section that sort of straddles the keys of G and D. We start with the G chord that feels like the tonic, but then we pivot to a B minor chord that now feels like the minor tonic in the key of D. We then land on D, its relative major.
Who heed me not, let all your treasure make you.
This repeats twice and then sends us to, well, bluntly put, the most controversial section of the song. This section of the song is purely a cappella vocals, and it's constructed using a tape delay machine, which was relatively new technology at the time, and it creates this sort of round or cannon style vocal part, sort of like that version of Row, Row, Row Your Boat that a lot of kids learn in elementary school music class. Row, row, row your boat, gently down the stream, gently down the stream. The idea for this came from Brian May's fascination with using delays to overlap different notes to create moving chords. And in this section, while Brian May flexes his tape delay prowess, Freddie is flexing his playfulness, his music theory, and his vocal prowess, allowing the cascading delays to create these meandering chord progressions that weave in and out of each other seamlessly. These vocal layers are panned wide left, right, and center, which creates this sort of ping-ponging effect as well as the notes move up and down. So this section is kind of polarizing. A lot of people who are big fans of this song don't necessarily like the fact that this section consumes about 3 minutes of it. However, regardless of how you feel about it, you can't deny it's creative, and it's emblematic of Queen's tendency to try to push boundaries and try new things that may or may not always work. It's the risk you take when you apply that kind of creativity. One moment in this section that I think is really cool that I would like to highlight is the homonym of here and here. Come here, I hear you. Freddie layers these so that the hears overlap, even though they're technically different words with different meanings. It's very fun. So how do they get to the next section from here? The section ends with fuller harmonies on the word la over and over and over again, that then take us to the line, listen to the man, which pivots us to the next section. The next section is an attempt at a return to normalcy, but really, it's a guitar solo. It's Brian May rocking out. That's about it. Then we have our same crazy walk-up that we had in the second section to bring us from the verse to the chorus, that takes us into another chorus. And that chorus takes us to the final section of the song, which is an instrumental outro and something else as well. So the end of the chorus turns the D minor tonic into a D major chord, which creates this really unbalanced, elevated feeling. And that's only enhanced by this really disorienting, dreamy, clean guitar work that's very suddenly punctuated by a rock hit. From there, we return to the classically inspired acoustic guitar stylings we had at the beginning of the song. And then at the very end, and this is super cool, the guitar work teases a motif from the next song on the album called Love of My Life. And then immediately following that, transitions into that song. And for what it's worth, Love of My Life is another absolute masterpiece and may be the subject of a future video. So that's it. That's the Prophet song. Honestly, everything I've discussed here is just the tip of the iceberg with this song. There's so much to dissect, but I didn't want this video to be like 3 hours long. If you've never listened to the Prophet song in its entirety and you've made it this far into the video, I highly recommend that you go listen to the full thing right now. If there's anything else that's super important that you think I missed in this analysis, or if you have recommendations for other songs or bands that I should cover in the future, let me know down in the comments below. And that's all we got. Thank you for watching this whole video. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.